calling my pregnant wife ugly to see our kids' reaction.
Children should not be put in positions where they're forced to constantly question their reality. I just think a very weird thing about this type of content, right, is that it relies on just sort of an ongoing relationship with children and their parents or primary caregivers, pranking them, effectively like messing with their heads a bit. Before the It's Not Too Deep Brigade gets in here and drowns, I don't have time for this. I think this whole idea of children being content and having to sacrifice their childhood with no ability to consent to it is already weird, so just skip this if it's not for you. But I want to think about it like from a real childhood development perspective, right? Of like children develop autonomy, safety, trust, secure attachment, self-esteem through what's modeled and provided for them, right? From their primary caregivers, the parents and other adults in their life. A child's job within a household, within a family unit also is to learn and understand their parents, first and foremost, what their parents like, what makes them mad, what makes them happy, how to generally please them, understanding their schedules, when they like to wake up, how to work together, right? How to get the things that they want from their parents. Even siblings can tell like which sibling is the right sibling to ask for things, which sibling can get away with more things, etc., etc. This is all developmentally normal and like super, super important. So, weirdness of this prank aside, which by the way, calling the mother of your children ugly in front of them and doing pranks like this repeatedly, like there's no way that that's a net positive outcome in the long run. But putting that aside, you as a parent for young children are the infrastructure to their life, right? Their entire felt and known sense of safety and stability comes from you. And this is really important for kids because as kids begin to develop their own sense of independence and identity, they are supposed to be able to operate from that stable foundation that you've built. This stable foundation should also include things like trust, right? And having a general sense of predictability, feeling like you generally understand your surroundings and what's going on around you. Instead, we've created like essentially hyper vigilant children that have to look at their primary caregivers, that sort of safety foundation, with a squint in their eye on a near constant basis because they don't know if there is something traumatic or even just uncomfortable playing out in their experience of childhood, or if they're being pranked so other adults can watch them experience distress on the internet for views. And I want to be really clear here, that is the entertainment factor. It is a violation of trust, consuming a child's distress, and then the relief cycle when they realize that whatever they thought had happened that was negative or uncomfortable or even frankly traumatic isn't real. Mind you, these relief cycles can also be incredibly painful and dysregulating for the kid. We see some children like crying in relief, some kids just like silently laughing, all kinds of really bizarre responses. I just think as adults, right, because adults are the primary consumers of this content, we need to get really real with ourselves and like question why we think this is normal, like why we think a human child's childhood, right, is acceptable collateral, acceptable cover charge to pay for our entertainment. Like a child's job is to be safe. That is, their job is to be safe and figure out who they are, what they like, how they feel about themselves and the world around them. That's what their job is, right? They didn't ask to be here. They certainly didn't ask to be consumed and productized from the time that they can open their eyes. They certainly didn't ask to have their parents pretend to disrespect each other, to pretend to behave outside of integrity, to solicit a negative reaction from them. Like, we just need to come together and realize how weird that is. And again, I'm not like assuming anything negative into the dynamics of this family. I'm talking about what we as a culture deem an acceptable price to pay for our entertainment, why we think that that's okay, why we think that it's necessary and that we deserve to have content, that we need to have content like this, the primary role that children are supposed to play within their own childhood and within their family units, and how this type of content really robs them of that. It really takes away the experience of having an embodied, unobserved, sort of real childhood. Whether we like it or not, too, another thing about these family blogs, right, is there's reactions that go well and reactions that don't do as well algorithmically. And so when you think of that from the perspective of a child developing their own identity, they come to learn at a very young age which actions, responses, behaviors are rewarded through social media are rewarded by their parents who are profiting off of their childhood in this way. And so their ability to develop an authentic identity is totally stifled. It's totally blunted. It's kind of like the matter, the molecules that change really radically under observation. Like, you can say that you've kept really great boundaries for your kid and that you're really good with how you film, whatever the case may be. Your kid will see and learn over time which actions, which moods, which emotions, which responses from them solicit the most sort of approval from you, the parent. They're going to see that. That's their job to learn that about you. It's their job to learn their place within the family dynamic. And when that is motivated by their consumability as a product, as a piece of content from adults, you've done a very weird thing to them. You've done a really weird thing to this very critical stage of their development. And I think we need to be much more honest about this, because the consequences are coming for us. Like, there have never been so many really famous family accounts that focus their content. This is key, on their children. And so we are going to pay that bill in the next coming, 5-10 years in numbers. And this is the kind of stuff that, like, we can speculate to the outcomes of it now. We can speculate to those long-term consequences, but they are going to hit so hard. And if it costs even one child, right, doing something that we could have very easily just been like, no, this is not this is not content that's essential. This is not content that's critical. As adult consumers, we could have done this. It is not a worthy price to pay, in my opinion.